Good morning. It is the morning of October 12th. I am 24 pages into my reread of The Gorka and the Lord of Tuesday by Saad Hossein, and I'm loving it. That is all I have to say and all I have time to say right now. Okay, hello, it's now the morning of October 13th, and I can tell you what I was going on about. So, the first thing is, what is this vlog even about? As it says, character creation for the Magical Readathon. What is that? What is anything? So the Magical Readathon is a readathon that happens in April and September every year. And basically you have a character who goes to Magical University and you read books according to what degree they're getting. Now there are optional stuff like character creation, which is what I'm doing because I find it really fun and because my last two characters just finished getting their degrees. So now I have two more characters coming in. You're supposed to have one character, but I like to go overboard, of course. Anyways, so character creation has 3 prompts for each character. One is there are different kinds of peoples in this world, like elves, dwarfs, etc. So one is that. One is if they come from a rural or urban environment, and one is what continent they grew up on, because there are continents in this world. So this is the vlog for reading according to what kind of people they are. So I have 2 characters, Miriam, who's a dwarf, and Rafaela, who's an elf. So the prompt for dwarf is read a sci-fi, and the prompt for elf is read a book with a star on the cover. So I just reread The Gorka and the Lord of Tuesday by Saad Hossein, which is a sci-fi book. So that was for Miriam, obviously. So what is The Gorka and the Lord of Tuesday? Oh my god, it's so hard to explain. And I love it so much. I read a Saad Hossein story before I read The Gorka and the Lord of Tuesday, which I loved. And then I read this, and I've DNF'd a novella, which is a novella. I've DNF'd a novella. I've read 2 books by him. I need to get on reading more short stories by him with God's help. But this is definitely the favorite of my things that I've read by him so far, and I've loved a lot of his things. And I love this book so much. Like, I wish it was longer, even though it's the perfect length, just because I enjoyed being in this book so much. Like, this and Gin City are my favorites by him. Gin City didn't need to be longer, though. It was long enough. It was over 400 pages. And the Gin City was also way more depressing. This is a very funny story. Each of his books has a very different vibe, and this is, like, really just such a funny story. Like, it's an adult book, yes, and has violence in that, but the core of it is humor, if you know what I mean. Like, it has violence, but the core of it is humor. So, what is this book even about? So this happens in the future, where most of the world is uninhabitable. But there are some habitable places, including the city of Kathmandu. And the city of Kathmandu is ruled by an AI, a real AI, called Karma. And basically, you get points based on, like, doing good deeds, you know? Or not exactly even doing good deeds, just helping other people. You can help other people by giving them weed, and you'll get You'll get points. And then you can use that points to get stuff, you know? Anyways, so our 2 main characters are Melek Ahmar, who is a djinn. And he was trapped, like 4,000 years ago. So he wakes up, he has no idea what's happened in the world. Last time he was around, people were still, creating Europe, civilization. And then he meets this guy, the Gurkha, Ban Gurung. And Ban Gurung is like, you see that city right there? We've got to destroy it so you'll be king. And Melek Ahmar is at the beginning, he's totally into this. But then he gets to it, and he's like, he realizes that Ban Gurung has this grudge against the city for some reason. And basically the book is kind of everybody, Melek Ahmar, and also this guy in the city who works for Karma, trying to figure out what Ban Gurung's deal is. And it's such a good book. It's a novella, but it's such a good book. Anyways, that's all for today. Hi, it's December 3rd. And finally, we are in the last book for this total challenge for all of it. The other 2 videos are already up now as I'm filming this. And finally, we for Radha have to have a star on the cover. A star on the cover. So I said I was going to read Harley Quinn Reckoning. I tried that. I DNF'd in like 5 pages because the writing was just bad. So I decided to pick up another book with stars in the cover, or a star in the cover. This one happens to have a few stars. And the one I picked up is a novella, maybe even a novelette. It's like 83, 84 pages. And that is And Shall Machines Surrender by Benjanoon Surikandu. I did try to look up how you pronounce her name, but it's a pseudonym and not a very well-known author, so there was nothing anywhere. And Thai isn't like the most known language. Anyways, this is a sci-fi novelette, and I do kind of remember the summary, but actually, I'm enjoying reading this book. I'm 13 pages in, right? But I'm enjoying reading it more without thinking about the summary, just like discovering what this world is. Because I am very surprised to find that I am super enjoying this book. Because I was scared. I was looking at it, I was like, oh my god, this is going to be hard sci-fi. They're just going to throw a ton of world building at us. And listen, she does throw a ton of world building at us. However, I like the writing. And the world building, the thing is, sometimes authors just throw a ton of world building at you. And if the story is told through their voice, like a neutral voice, then it's boring. But if the story is told through someone else's voice, as in this case, we are seeing it through the eyes of our character. Even though it's a third person, it's very close povey, so we're seeing it through the eyes of our character, and it's actually, I would say, well, it's still not like, oh my god, amazing. I would say it's actually quite enjoyable seeing what she sees, because we're not just learning about the world when it tells us what about the world, we're also learning what about her, right? So like the things that are important to her are what's being told to us, because we're basically in her point of view. And it is also like, while there was a bit at the beginning, again, I've just read 13 pages, but there was a bit at the beginning where I did feel like, oh, you're throwing a bunch at me. But most of it was, and that's what I'm talking about, really. But most of it, I will say, it was like, oh, we're getting off the spaceship and this is going to tell us about this world. And while it still was a little much, I did feel like, for the reasons I said, it wasn't bad. I didn't feel bored reading it, right? Like I can say, yes, this could have been written better, but I did not feel bored reading it. And that is like the number one reason why you don't want things info dumped at you, because you feel bored. And so, yeah. So I'm not taking off points for that. So what is this book about, from what I know so far? So we have our main character who has a dark, potentially, past. In any case, she comes to a very selective world. It's not even a planet, it's a bunch of stuff in space. Under a pseudonym. They definitely do not know who she is, because if they did, they would not let her in. And she comes there to be a doctor, and she's accepted. And another thing that happened in this world is that it used to be that everybody had a personal AI companion. Like, imagine Gemini or ChatGPT, but they're with you, like, literally all the time. Like, and you can, like, talk with them, and they're actually intelligent, and not ChatGPT or Gemini, which are not intelligent. But at some point, years before this, it seems that she's in her 50s or 60s, and this happened when she was 23. All the AIs were outlawed, and the only place in the world that there can be AIs is the place that she is living, has come to live now. And that's basically all I know, because as I said, I only read 13 pages, but I do feel like I still quite know a lot. Like, this author is like, she knows that it's a novelette, it's only like 85 pages, and she knows how to pace it for a novelette. Anyways, that is all. Thank you. Okay, hello. Guess what? I DNF'd And Shall Machine Surrender. So there are 2 reasons. So, as I said, I was enjoying the writing. I was enjoying reading from the point of view of our main character. And then after 2 chapters, it switched to the point of view of another character. And she had the exact same voice. Like, it was obvious she was a very different person, but she was written in the exact same voice. And for some reason, I was like, at that point, I was like, oh, I really want to DNF. But for some reason, I didn't. I decided not to. And I read a little more, and the book turned pornographic. And not just pornographic that it's a few sex scenes and I can skip over it. Like, pornographic, but there are actual conversations that are important to the book that are taking place in the middle of this pornography. It wasn't sex scenes, it was a sex club. Um, and yeah, I don't want that. So I DNF'd it. Those two stuff together, I DNF'd it. So yeah, I do have a book on hold called Do You Dream of Terror 2, and that does have 2 stars in the cover. So hopefully I get something from that. Hello, it is December 15th, and we are trying again. Yesterday I got to page 73 of Do You Dream of Terror 2 by Timmy O. So this is a science fiction book about a group of teenagers who are chosen to go colonize a new Earth-like planet. And so it's all about them being on the spaceship together and stuff. And listen, that is just that science fiction trope of teenagers on a spaceship together. It's just a trope I love. There are so many books that I've read that I love with it. And honestly, this group of teenagers, so far, they haven't even gotten to the spaceship, and I am already loving it. Like, it's not about the science fiction. For me, it's about the seeing these people in a or like we're following different characters in a small stressful space. Right now they're in a small stressful space mentally, not physically yet because they're still on Earth, but they are for health reasons because they're about to go to space and they don't want them to get sick or anything in space. They are in like confinement and stuff, so it is kind of like that. Yeah, I'm just loving it, and the points of views are so different. Like they just, it is written a little more literally than I would like, but that's fine. That's like my only complaint, and it's such a minor one. Like even for me, it's such a minor one. Like there are sometimes complaints where you're like, oh, I'm complaining about this, and I know it's a minor complaint, but it doesn't feel like a minor complaint in my brain. And in this one, it's just like, yeah, it feels like also a minor complaint. Like I'm not bothered about it. So I really hope I continue to enjoy this one. And yeah, that's my update for now. Yeah, hello. It's December 16th. I am currently 239 pages through this book. It's definitely a quicker read. I'm still really enjoying it. But there is something I want to complain about that is more than a minor complaint. So basically, we have these older teenagers, like they're all like 17 to 19, who were chosen for the space program, and then we have the adults. So the teenagers are actually all in training for some role that the adults already have, and we're following the teenagers, which is great. I love it. That's not what I'm complaining about. I saw that it didn't get such a high rating on Goodreads, and I like there were way more 4s and 3s and 5s, and I think that it's because of exactly the reason I like it, which is there's absolutely no plot. This is all just character, which I love. Like that's exactly what I'm looking for. That's great for me. But I know it's not for everyone. But the thing is, there is one character who is the commander in training, and he's a bully. And it's really, really suspending my disbelief to believe that they could have chosen him to be this commander in training because it's like just so obvious his bullyingness. And yeah, it's really suspending my disbelief. Other than that, yeah, everyone here is, all of our characters are honestly a little bit crazy. I'm not sure if the author is making a point of everyone's a little bit crazy or anyone who decides that they want to leave Earth forever to travel 23 years in a spaceship to get to a new uninhabited planet is going to be a little bit crazy. So I'm actually, I don't know, I'm kind of leaning towards the second one because but the first one is also true, like, or maybe that's just me, but I think the first one is also true. So, I don't know. I am still enjoying it. I feel now like 46% of the way through, and I definitely see how things are ramping up that to a point that they're going to cause factions. Like, I already saw it before, but uh, some more things are happening now. I do wonder what's going to happen to the adults, though, when these factions happen. Like, I feel that they're also going to be part of the factions. Hi, hello, it's December 20th, and by the way, you are sitting next to my kitty cat. Hello, baby. Anyways, I am currently at page 403 of Do You Dream of Terror 2? I wish I could have updated you earlier, but I just simply did not have time. But as I suspected, I didn't say I suspected this, but I did suspect that there might be like some plot thing that happened at the end, and we have gotten to that plot thing that happened at the end. I'm still a little confused about how it's going to. Wait, I'm a bit cold. Wait one sec. About how it's going to work out because this book is 520 pages long. We're already in the middle of the plot thing. I do assume it's going to take longer than you would generally expect because of how this book is built. But I do wonder like where we're going to go. Like right now we have a few options. So our original group is separated. So now we have two groups. So option one, our groups stay separated. This means that definitely one of the groups will end up dying. Two, one of the groups very quickly dies. Three, both of the groups die, which I do not think is going to happen, obviously. Or four, our group that would die, that would, even if they were permanently separated, would end up dying a slow death, ends up back with the other group. So I don't know what's going to happen. But besides that, I just do want to talk about, like, I don't think I talked about the amount of, like, mental illness in this book. Did I? Yeah, I did. I feel like I said, like, I wasn't sure if the author wanted to say that anybody who was going to do this is surely, like, or it's just a human thing. Um, yeah, and we're definitely seeing it more with everybody in this. Basically, they're in a very obviously precarious situation, and we can see how they are either reaching despair or are fighting against reaching despair, which is interesting because they aren't really in a very precarious situation. At this point, they are, but before that, they were in a spaceship and it was mostly normal. So there's that. Yeah, and then everything blew up very quickly. Literally blew up very quickly. So I do not know what's going to happen next. At the rate I've been reading this, because it is a very quick book, I hope that I'll be able to finish it on Sunday. Hey, so it is December 21st, and like I guessed, I did end up finishing Do You Dream of Terror 2 today. And listen, I'm kind of understanding the low ratings a little more, though not totally, because I did look up on Goodreads, and a lot of ratings are like 1 star, 2 stars, being like, there's no plot. It's only teenagers being annoying, and like, yeah, that's what I love, okay? But the thing is, I did have a bit of an issue with the pacing. The pacing is, especially in the last part, which I just read, which I was just talking about, I felt like, how do I put this? Oof, I had it in my mind and now I've forgotten. Let me think. Okay, so honestly, I was feeling this a little bit for the whole book, but I was kind of trying to ignore it because I was just enjoying it so much that this was a character book and not a plot book. But the last part was more plotty, kind of, and then it like was focused on plot for a very short time, and then went back to character. And it just made me realize how much of the book the pacing fell off, and that is the pacing felt very fast. And I was kind of also not saying anything about it because the book already takes a really long time. And I was like, okay, so she doesn't want to show every single day. That's fine. But it definitely did feel like um, we have an emotion. We're given an emotional problem, and then especially at the end, it's like solved, like tick tock. That's it. Like you have, like the person has the solution, and it's solved. And yeah, so how do I feel about this book overall? I think I believe it's a debut novel. Okay. So maybe I should be, like you always feel like when it's a debut novel, you should be a bit more forgiving. Um, but I think that overall, I still enjoyed this book. but I definitely did have a problem with the pacing. But like, how much does that take away my enjoyment of it? The ending was especially annoying because it was kind of, not only did it feel like pacing issues, it also felt almost kind of moralistic. So, and if you've seen any of my vlogs, you know I hate moralistic stuff. So the question is, how much does it take away my enjoyment of it? And I think it actually does quite a lot, because also I think because I was hoping that the book would actually take care of the pacing problems as we went on. So because the book didn't fix that, and in fact it got worse, it does take away my enjoyment of the book. And I think like a book that was like, if I gave star ratings would have been a 4.5, is down to a 3 stars. So yeah, overall thoughts. I enjoyed the concept of the book a lot. I am totally here for just have characters, throw them in a situation, make them even more messed up than they were before. However, I felt that the pacing with regards to the emotional development of the characters was totally off. They just solved the problems way too quickly, and that took away my enjoyment of the book. But I would definitely want to see more by Temi O. I feel like this definitely could have been a series. Like, if this had been a TV series like DS9, that would have been so good, you know? DS9 Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. But yeah, I finally finished a book with stars on the cover, which means that I am done with everything. I finished Miriam ages ago, and now I finished Rafaela. She is officially an elf. She already was an elf, which means that I'll be able to go on to the Novus Path, which I've actually already finished filming the first few clips for. So I have not started reading the books, and I have a few more books to read before that I want to read before I start reading those books. Anyways, I'm out of this vlog.